The ninth season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Sunday at 5 p.m.
Once again, from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Consider This. I'm Andrea McMaster. Thanks for joining us today. Well, it's a busy month on college campuses. Students are saying goodbye to their parents and moving into the college dorms, ready to face many new adventures. At the same time, many high school seniors are gearing up to apply for colleges. However, it's not high school senior time that when you should start thinking about preparing for college. You should start much earlier than that, even in the middle school years. And we're going to talk about that today. Tips for preparing for college, both academically and financially. We have two guests joining us today. David Ciccatello, who's with the University of Nebraska-Omaha, the Director of New Student Enrollment. Glad you could be with us today, David.
Thank you.
And Joan Jurek, the Director of College Planning for Education Quest. And I want to take a moment here just to talk a little bit about Education Quest. Education Quest Foundation was formed in 1998 as a nonprofit organization with a mission to improve access to higher education in Nebraska. Have offices in Kearney, Lincoln, and Omaha. Yes. So I'm glad that you could be here today, Joan, too, and giving us lots of tips on how to get ready for college and gear up for college. But first, I want to talk about the excitement that's going on right now here on the University of Nebraska-Omaha campus. Students moving into the college dorms. It can be tearful for many parents at the same time, saying goodbye to their students for their children for the first time. But it's so exciting for the students. So talk a little bit about what's going on.
Well, one of the things that's going on is that first step towards independence. And as students leave high school, graduate, get ready for college, leave home, they're thinking about being independent for the first time. And moms and dads are hoping that that happens too. So there is a time for reconsidering what's next. And the most important thing that I would share with parents that you need to keep the lines of communication open. And when the student is at school, call them, email them, do whatever you need to say, how's it going? And that goes a long way to keep that communication going, because they're not going to forget their parents and you're not going to forget them either. So that is one of the big things that I would consider.
Sure. And I think back to my first year in college. My first week, I didn't call my parents. And they were so concerned, oh, she forgot about me. But there's so much going on. And I was just into the moment. And I'm sure you hear about that too.
Yes, there is a lot going on. With moving into a residence hall, with getting familiar with your campus, there is a lot of excitement. And new students ought to think about getting involved as one of the key pieces to acclimating to their new environment. Whatever you've done in high school, you could probably do it at a college campus, whether you were involved with music, athletics, student government. There's something for everyone, especially here at UNO and at most colleges across Nebraska and across the country. So the key to staying at school is getting involved. And that's been a proven piece in studies in higher ed.
Well, let's talk about the transition and making that smooth transition. How to survive that first year on a college campus. Let's begin by talking about what students really should expect their first year of college.
One of the things that they're going to soon find out is how important it is to be a good manager of their time. And if they buy a simple thing, a planner, it'll go a long way to keep them on track about when they have to go to class, when they need to do their homework, when they may have to go to work, study, whatever it is. But good time management skills are key. And fortunately or unfortunately, some of them discover how important that is very quick, especially at midterm.
Sure, because there's less structure on college than there would be in high school.
Yes, and that free time, that independent time, the thing I talked about a moment ago about becoming independent, is you have all this time, what am I going to do with it? And so to think about how to structure that time productively. There's always time to have fun, and that's not to be overlooked either.
Well, it's also, these are some of the points from Education Quest website and what to expect the freshman year of college. I'm just going to list a couple and then you can add to these,
Sure.
David. But new experience, new friends. You'll find it's difficult to stay close maybe to those high school friends because you're meeting so many friends and maybe you're a distance away being on a college campus. Roommate adjustments from the start. Discuss with your roommate how to handle schedules, who's going to study in the room, those types of issues. And less structure, which we mentioned, weight gain. The dorm food is actually pretty good, but there's lots of it, and we do see some students put on those extra 10 pounds their first year. And getting your grades, wow, what happened? You may ask that question when you get your first set of grades. Well, your professor will give you a syllabus at the beginning of the semester, and getting used to that, that's different from
Right.
high school too.
And that becomes part of that independence. You're not having someone say, your homework is due tomorrow, and we're going to have a test in 2 weeks. There is a lot of independent management of what's coming next. And for a student who might have that shock about, well, I did so well in high school, it's going to be okay in college. The key point is to keep up. And there is more reading, more study time than they could imagine that goes into that.
Well, and they're going to find too that the professors expect them to have that independence now. So they're not going to be reminding them when a paper is due or, you know, when a chapter of reading is expected to be done. Not like your high school teacher will. You know, they're going to remind you every day in high school. Professors aren't going to do that. You're independent now.
One of the other things I would say is that it takes some initiative to get that familiarity with the way college operates. And I would encourage students and parents to encourage their students to seek out their professors, get to know them, and to kind of reduce that fear of I can't talk to my professor or whatever. And that goes a long way to have them enter this new academic environment and to feel more comfortable. And they're going to be challenged like they probably haven't been challenged before.
That's a really good point. That moves on to what I wanted to talk about next, just really the secrets of success in college, especially that first year while you're making that transition. Managing your time, you're on your own. Of course, you don't have your parents to remind you. Go to class.
Showing up is critical, and it helps a lot of to promote success. No doubt about it.
Well, and one of the things about going to class is that professor is going to cover so much more than just what you can read out of the textbook. And so you're missing a lot by not attending that class. Besides, you pay for it.
Yes.
Why not use it? Why not attend?
Sure. Well, here's another good tip from Education Quest website that I really liked is review your notes for 10 to 15 minutes after class so that you can actually understand what your notes meant later on down the road.
You can fill in those blanks
Right.
of shorthand.
Right. Seek out a study group. Studying with other students can always help and help as a motivator.
Yes, and that has been proven to be a critical success factor. Study partners, study buddies, study groups, and many professors build that into courses, so that's a kind of given in some cases.
Okay. And don't be afraid to ask for help. David, you've already mentioned
right.
this, but your advisors and your professors are there for a
Right.
reason.
And there are a lot of students who have never asked for help before. It's foreign to them. And when they find themselves in a dilemma, maybe midterm or some point in the semester, that's when they are sinking. And it may be too late, but it's always better to ask for help.
Okay. Well, parents, here is how you can help your child succeed. We want parents to know, too, that they can encourage their student to stay at school on the weekends and to get involved in campus activities. Students, especially at first, are probably going to want to go home on the weekends, but staying there, like you said, getting involved is just going to motivate them that much more to want to go to their classes and do well academically. And then don't fight your child's battles. The resident advisor can help with a roommate issue, for example. So parents don't need to do that. Give your child that independence again.
That's right. Conflict resolution, whether it's your roommate or your future spouse, is going to happen without your parents. And I think that the more that the student is empowered from the parent's point of view to take it on themselves go a long way to being independent.
That's a good point.
Okay, well, I want to talk a little bit about this fall really being a busy time for high school seniors as well because of the admission deadlines for applying for colleges. So I want to talk about steps to help both juniors and seniors to get going and get rolling with those admission deadlines and applying for colleges. Again, these are tips on the Education Quest website, and Joan, I'm going to have you help me with going through some of these, but we're going to start with step 1, researching the colleges. Talk to college representatives who visit your school, attend the college fair in your area, visit college websites, and note deadlines for admissions.
Yes. What you mentioned as far as researching out colleges, that's something we really encourage our high school juniors to start doing. You know, seniors think, oh, I got to be researching now. Well, no, you should have done that in junior year. Junior year is really the research year of what colleges are out there, what do I want to do so I know kind of what college do I need to be looking for, a 2-year program or 4-year program, or do I need to look beyond that as well. So researching out the colleges, comparing them out. You know, the size of the school, the location of the school, how far is it from home? You know, kind of have a safety net school, something that is close to home, just in case you really decide that you don't want to move away after all. You know, take a look at, does it have the major that you're interested in? That's a big part of it, of course.
Yes.
And there are so many colleges, 3,500 in the nation. So there's a lot of options and a lot of choices for students.
Yes.
Then the next one, visit colleges that interest you. So begin your college visits your junior year and complete them by early fall of your senior year. Set up your visits at least 2 weeks in advance, and then meet with representatives from admissions, financial aid, and from an area of your interest on those visits to the college campus.
Yeah, visiting a campus is pretty much like test driving a car, you know, or trying on shoes. Does it have the right fit and the right feel for what you're looking for in a program, in a school, and the environment?
What we know is that 90%, in a recent survey, 90% of high school seniors indicated that they were committed to a campus visit. So they're coming. And that is part of the culture, as Joan was saying, of test driving. And many seniors then report that 2 out of 3 say that their best campus visit made their decision to go to that school.
Yeah.
It's critical.
So
It is.
what are some really good questions to ask then on that campus visit?
Well, I would pick up on what Joan was saying about the major, trying to figure out if that's going to be a good fit for you. Do you have my major here? What happens to majors who graduate from this school? Do they get jobs? Part of that is that research that is critical.
And although the visit might happen before you're actually applying for the school, are you trying to impress those that you meet, be it professors or admission counselors at that point?
In some cases you may be, and certainly privates have different admissions criteria and admission process that may involve interviews because the competition is very key. But in most cases, you're in the test drive situation. You're checking it out. Getting that information is critical.
And should parents go along?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes. Make it a family event. Sometimes it's kind of nice if you can divide up your campus tour. You know, and I know a lot of colleges do that. They give parents an opportunity to go to a parent session and students get to go to a student section. So when you come back together at the end of the day, you can compare notes. You know, what did you find out? What did you hear? What did you like? What did you dislike? And so you can learn more when you kind of split up a little bit, but it's very important to go together as a family.
Because likely the parents will be helping pay for the college.
Yes.
Well, and usually the parents are more interested in the campus safety and the academic affairs and some of those issues. The students are going to be looking at social life. What is there to do on campus? How can I get involved, whether it's student government, student athletics, you know, musicals or whatever.
Okay. Well, the third step, take those college entrance exams. We're talking about the ACT and the SAT, and those start right junior year.
Yes.
Yes, and that is a time that students can begin to assess their achievement levels too. And in many cases, the junior year lets them know, well, here's where I need to get before I start applying. And here at UNO, we offer students a test drive each fall and winter to practice the ACT or the SAT as part of our outreach. And it's a good opportunity to take a practice before you actually have to sit down and take it for a real score.
That would have helped for me too, I know that. So how should students prepare for these tests? You mentioned taking college will use the test results in which ways? So how should they prepare for them, and then how will the colleges use those test results?
Well, colleges use them for both admission standards, which is getting accepted to the college, as well as many times for scholarships. And what kind of scholarship funding can they give the student, which we know is very important.
And okay, step 4, here we go. Narrow your list of colleges. So narrow your list down to 3 or 4 colleges. Include your dream school, a sure bet school, and one close to home that is affordable and within commuting distance.
Yeah.
That's probably hard to narrow that list.
Yes.
But that's good to have each one of those. And then step 5, research and apply for scholarships. Colleges award many renewable scholarships. Ask about criteria, procedures, and deadlines, and visit your guidance counselor weekly for scholarship information. They always have new scholarship information coming in.
And scholarship searching is, again, something that our juniors can really be active in doing, the high school juniors. So they don't have to wait until they're a senior to start looking at what scholarship opportunities are out there. You know, we talked about the college visits. That's a very important question to ask the campus admissions office. What scholarship opportunities do you have available? What scholarship deadlines are there? And do I have to fill out a separate scholarship application process? So the more you know about the scholarship opportunities at that school, you still have a year to work on that criteria if you're finding out as a junior. And then going on into the senior year, you're going to find that there's more application due dates for scholarships.
So that's a critical thing that Joan just mentioned, is that calendar of events and deadlines that moms and dads tune into. Students have to be aware of that, of course, but the more we get out to parents how critical it is to be early, early, early. That is the one mantra that I try to get across to parents and students, of course, too. But moms and dads tune into that. And I also try to relate that no matter what your dream school is, and no matter what the sticker shock is, there's a way to pay for that. And there are lots of opportunities, and Education Quest can assist moms and dads to find a way to afford higher ed.
Okay. We're going to get into some of those financial steps later on, but I also wanted to mention we've got local and national scholarships, so they can be looking across the board. Step 6, apply for admissions. Ask your college choices what type of admission they offer. So early decision, early action, rolling decision, open decision. Ask about admission deadlines and procedures. Colleges typically require these items with the application: a high school transcript, entrance exam scores, and application fee. And colleges may also require letters of recommendation, essays, and a resume of your extracurricular involvement. Yes. And I know that's key today, and I wanted you to touch a bit on this, David, is that extracurriculars, it's not just looking at the grades. It's not just looking at that 4.0 average to see if that is what's, critical.
Correct.
Or their ACT, SAT scores.
Right. There are scholarships and or other opportunities that look at their leadership profile, and the way a student through high school builds up that resume of leadership activities goes a long way to assist in certain applications, not only for admission to some schools, but also for scholarship consideration.
We have a great tool on the Education Quest website called the Activities Resume, and it's a way that students can track their activities. So when they get ready to apply for those scholarships, apply for their college admission application forms, they can print out their college resume, and it has everything on there, from their extracurricular activities to maybe honors classes or special recognitions that they've received, because that really is an important part of it. And the colleges are going to review that resume a lot when it comes down to seeing how well-rounded that student is.
And writing that essay, that could be challenging for students. Any recommendations on how to do that?
Well, one of the things that you can get assistance on writing your resume and or your essay or your personal statement, whatever is required for either admissions or for scholarships. There are many places to get assistance, including Education Quest or on the web, Kaplan Test Services. There are lots of places where moms and dads and students can seek that out. I would also say that once you have a draft, let your high school counselor look at it. Someone who knows that student well, who can give some feedback and polish it and so on.
Great, some good advice. Okay, well, we're going to move on here. Step 7 is applying for financial aid. Step 8 is expect to hear from the colleges. The colleges will send you a letter of acceptance or rejection, and colleges that accept you will send you information about housing deposits and freshman orientation. And then step 9, select a college, compare schools, and pick the one that best meets your needs. And so what are some of the things to consider when you're balancing one college to the other? It's a lot of time finances, maybe for parents, but what can make one student stand out from another in the application process? If a student is rejected from a school of their choice, what are some of the reasons for that, David?
Well, in most cases, it's probably that the student fell short of the criteria for admission, okay? And colleges would defer that admission. The student might have to take additional classes, maybe at a community college, and then reapply. That's on the admissions criteria side. But the point about finding your fit in all of that is key. And as I like to share with moms and dads and students, is that eventually you're going to have to look yourself in the mirror and say, do I see myself fitting in there? If I can afford it, if I can get admitted, do I fit there? And that's what Joan was saying earlier. And if you fall short of the admissions criteria, there's a place for you. And don't be discouraged, because you could always reapply.
Very good point. Okay, well, let's talk about financing that college education. Next to saving for retirement, your biggest financial challenge, parents, is probably saving for your child's college education. If you have small children and you haven't been told about how much college education might cost in about 15 years, well, we hope you're sitting down before you hear this. Conservative estimates put 4 years at a public university, in 15 years at about $100,000 or more. So that's got to make parents think, how in the world can I afford to send my child to college? Especially parents with newborns at home right now today, thinking there's no way. What do I do? How do I begin preparing to save for college? Should I start that early?
I would say yes. You're going to start saving for college education probably the minute that baby is born, if not ideally beforehand, as you're planning to have a family. You know, as you mentioned, Andrea, costs are going to be very high, and they're not getting any cheaper, unfortunately. And there's great opportunities for families to save for college between the 529 plans, the education IRAs, you know, your regular savings accounts, your mutual funds, depending upon how conservative you want to be or how aggressive you want to be in your savings.
Well, how do I know if my child is eligible for financial aid?
Actually, every student can get financial aid. Every student can qualify for financial aid. Now, not every student's going to qualify for free government funding, like grant money. You know, not every student might get a full ride scholarship. There are other programs like work-study programs where they can work on the college campus, and then of course the student loans, which we all know we have to pay those back, but it's pretty much realistic that students have to borrow loans in order to help finance their education. You know, they're going to be at a more low interest rate loan than say a personal or just a regular bank loan would be.
Well, we've been hearing a lot about the 529 plan lately. What are some of the benefits of that plan? Is that a plan that would be good for parents to research?
Usually with the 529 plans, there's a kickback of some kind where you can get a reduction off of your state income taxes. And also if you take that money out and use it for college, you get to take it out tax-free. So yeah, those were some benefits to the 529s.
Joan gave us all a pretty good overview of the multiple ways that higher ed can be afforded and financed. And I encourage moms and dads and students to consider all those options, because there are going to be a certain number, a small number, that may get that full ride, and many worries are taken care of with a full ride. But many students are in that situation of having to combine resources and go through school working too while they're gaining their education.
When we talk about, the financing part of the college, early on, we also need to talk a little bit about just the preparation of middle school student and what they can do to kind of help that process along of the financing, because good grades, good extracurricular activities, volunteer work are going to help with that scholarship later on once they get into college admission application forms. So knowing that, it's a continuous process of saving for college early on when they're young, when they're in grade school, but then on into middle school, what that student can do to help the process themselves.
Yes. Being a good student in middle school lays the foundation for a lot of good things to happen further on. And if I had one tip for moms and dads is to keep that student focused on a fairly rigorous academic curriculum that can only be a benefit in the long run.
Well, some of the students take on that own responsibility, their own financial responsibility.
Yes.
I know for parents who maybe can't help with their children's education. And so they might be balancing a job and going to college maybe part-time or whatever. How do you advise for that to work for students in that situation?
Well, one thing we do know is that from research, working on campus does pay off in terms of persistence to graduation and feeling that involvement at school. So if I were advising a student where to work, I would first say, find a job on campus. You're more likely to stay at that campus, you're more likely to graduate. Now the number of hours, after a while, when you get beyond 20, 25, there's a depreciating return on that, because you're not spending enough time as you could with your academics. You have to find that balance. But it's no fault for anyone to go part-time towards a college education, because many students do that and finish. No problem.
It might take longer than
Might
the 4
take longer.
years.
Yes, it does. And we're not in that mode anymore in higher ed that everybody gets done in 4 years. No way. People can get done in 4 years, but that's not the case, the majority case anymore.
Okay, well, David Ciccatello, a new student enrollment here at the University of Nebraska Omaha, and Joan Jurek with Education Quest. Glad you could both be here today. Wonderful tips for parents and students. And that website one more time is www.educationquest.org. Thank you for joining us for this week on Consider This. We
is an
hope that they
issues
were
and
great tips for
information
you
program
today.
produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours.
The 9th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Sunday at 5 p.m.